being bothered. Don't like the feeling of being ignored. Told you we too grown for this, make it short. Told you I'm too bold for this, already young. She wanna spend some time with it, she wanna spend some time. I can't get my heart with it, I'm too in my mind. I can't get my cards with it, I'm too in my grind. Learning shit the hard way, now I'm in my prime. I fucked up old girl, I know. 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 I know.
Once upon a time, fools I find. Once upon a time, what fools I find. But since I've gone away, don't you run and hide from truth inside. Everything is gone away. Once upon a time, what fools I find. But since I've gone away, don't you run and hide from truth you decide. Everything is gone away.
I keep way too much in my head, and I know that. I stay away from temptation, love, and I know that. When I love it, always come, and I know that, and I know that. I keep When I love it, always go. And I know that, and I know that.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the session. Let me go ahead and let the final people in. I know we're starting a little bit behind, but I appreciate everybody's time. Give me just a minute as we let more folks in. We had a technical difficulty at the beginning, so we pushed back a little bit of the session. But we are here and we made it. Here's our emergency meeting. So let's give it a minute while we let everybody join. There we go. All right. So this is our session around, and it's our emergency session around the markets and not letting the markets control your money. So we're going to go through some strategies to be able to protect your money and also to grow your assets, right? Grow your assets. So get to a level where not only do you protect, but you also make money during this period in time in the market. You know, there's a lot of confusion going on right now. So I'm going to just throw this out as a quick question to everybody inside the room. And I'm just going to ask, will the market go up? And I just want to see what everybody has to answer for this. So will the market go, and there's a poll right now that's inside of the chat, will the market go up or will it go down, right? And, you know, as what I expected, we have, look at how it's shifting, right? It's like 45, 54, people are, if you notice, we are going through a period right now where it's actually very confusing. It's very confusing on what's happening. We don't know if the market is going up. Half of us don't know if the market's going up. Half of us don't know if the market's going down. We don't know what to do. We're lost. We're dazed and confused. And that's really that's a very successful strategy that some of the wealthiest, largest institutions want. They want you to be dazed and confused. They want you to be lost. They want you to have decision fatigue so that you don't make decisions quickly and you sit back and you don't do anything right now. You know, that's really what it's come down to. And, you know, as I hate to say it, but we as either investors, new investors, experienced investors, we have to figure it out for ourselves, right? We have to cut through the noise and we have to figure out for ourselves, is this something that we feel climate-wise that we would like to invest, right? Do we want to invest right now? Do we not want to invest right now? And so then let me ask you this question. I'm going to ask you one follow-up question to this because right now we're at 60%. Everyone says the market will come down. We're at 37%. The market will go up. So we have a 60-40 going on here. And that danced around for a little bit. So I'm going to go back to, I'm going to reset this poll. And I'm going to give you another one. Okay, here's your next question. Your next question is very simple.
where will the market be in 5 years? Will the market be more expensive or will the market be less expensive? And it's a simple question with a very simple answer. Was it going to be higher or is it going to be lower? Right? And for this is an incredible exercise, especially in a room. And it's interesting because I do these exercises through our training sessions, and everyone in those trainings typically gets amazed by how everyone is very calibrated with these forward-looking questions. Everybody in today, right now, at this moment, if you noticed, we were confused. Half the room says, yes, it's going higher. Half the room says it's going lower. But when we say 5 years from now, where will the markets be? It's almost unanimous. Everybody says 95% says that it's going higher. So if we're saying that 95% of us here are saying that it's going to go higher, why wouldn't we be buying the market right now, regardless of whether we're confused or not? Why wouldn't we want to get in? Why wouldn't we want to take advantage of the market conditions? Isn't that an interesting psychological exercise? Let's take it a step further. Okay, let's take it one step further. I just want to test your might a little bit on here. Test your might a little bit on here. And so we're at 92 to 7% on that poll. So just to throw it out there. So it was a unanimous vote on that the market will be higher in 5 years. So I'm going to do one more. Okay. Sorry, I was typing like a 2-year-old. Okay. Will in 5 years hard assets like gold and real estate, will they be more expensive or will they be less expensive? In 5 years from now, will hard assets be more expensive or will they be less expensive? Right? Notice that we went 100% almost here, 95% to the more expensive. We have 4% on less expensive. That's one person out of this entire session is saying that we're going to be less expensive in 5 years. That's a doomsdayer. I'm sorry to say it. It's a doomsdayer person, right? We always have that person in the room. There's always going to be that person. That makes up the extra 4%. It's totally fine. Shout out to that person for being a rebel. Who knows? Hey, listen, Michael Burry, he's predicted the last 50 declines. There's only been 2, but he's predicted the last 50. For some reason, him and Robert Kiyosaki are always predicting the end of the world. But the rest of us that are more calibrated to the markets and are believers that the market is always evolving, it's always continuing to create, innovate, and expand. In 5 years, do you believe that real estate, that gold, that hard assets are going to be more expensive or less expensive? And 96% of you know that it's going to be more expensive. So again, going back to it, why wouldn't you be buying into this market right now? Right? Why are we at a period where everyone is confused? Why is 40% of this room positive on the market conditions, knowing that in 5 years, everything's going to go up, but then 60% of you are negative on this market condition and saying that you're not going to buy when you just said that in the next 5 years, whatever you buy right now will be higher in price. Doesn't that create a redundancy? It doesn't make sense. So let's continue, right? So we'll go into it. In fact, just to add a little bit more, why would you wait? For those of you that actually opted for the 5 years being more expensive, why would you wait until it's more expensive for you to buy? Most of you are trying to time the market and saying, I want to get into this market now while it's cheap. Hey, sometimes the market being cheap isn't that it falls, but that it pulls back a little bit and stabilizes. Because most times, especially for the last 5-6 years, all the market's been doing is rising, right? All the market's been doing is rising. For people that say, hey, well, interest rates are too expensive, then you've never seen 15 to 20% interest rates before. But I can tell you right now, in the era of your parents, in the era of your grandparents, in the era from 2000 to 2007, interest rates were 15%. If you go to any country around the world, interest rates are 30%, 25%. So to say, I'm waiting for interest rates to come down, what are you going to wait for them to come down on? 1 point? A half a point? You're going to miss an opportunity to buy good assets at cheaper prices, at a more stable place, where versus in the next year, 2 years, prices will rise, interest rates will rise, or interest rates could stall, and you're buying at a more expensive rate. Right? So it doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. And that's why we do this quick little exercise to understand, where's everybody at? 60% of us are on the no, I'm not buying right now camp. And we need to change that, because you were programmed by watching things online to believe that now is not the right time to buy. And you're going to miss out on an opportunity, because the best times to buy are when deals come out. There's deals right now. So let's go into it. I'm Rich. I am a real estate investor. That's primarily what I've done for the last 14 years. I've built multiple companies. I've done quite well in my life. And I've decided, over the last 5 years, I decided that I was just going to teach other people to do what I'm doing. And that's what I've been doing. I've had over 29,000 students, 11,000 of them as private students. And I've generated, I won't even imagine to tell you how many millionaire students over my life. And this is me and my wife. We've traveled around the world. We're still traveling around the world right now. And it's all because of real estate. We own multiple properties. These properties have multiple units. They're all multifamily properties. We didn't settle on buying a house for ourselves. Instead, we bought properties that pay us to go and live the life that we want to live. It's a very simple concept. It's actually not very complicated at all. And if you said, oh, well, this guy did something that a lot of people don't really want to do. They don't want to sacrifice their convenience. You don't want to rent, but you also don't have enough money to own your own house. Most people are sitting there convincing themselves, I need a home. I just got married with my wife. And me and my wife sat down and said, hey, it doesn't make sense to buy a house if we have to pay for it every single month. I would rather have our tenants or someone else pay for our property. Rich people don't pay for things. They have other people pay for them. It's kind of interesting, but that's why they're rich, because they don't have to pay. Somebody else is doing it. If you guys are looking for that type of lifestyle where you want to have someone else, and I'm not saying it in a negative way where you treat them bad or you take advantage of them. You are exchanging a service, a value of some sort for a revenue, for some type of income stream. And doing that and doing it correctly and ethically in the right way is what, obviously is the right thing to do. It's the most important thing to do. But if you are somebody that's like, man, I would love to have something like that. I'd love to be able to enjoy that type of lifestyle where you can travel to Rome, right? And enjoy, a time. This is us at the Vatican, just walking around. Never been to the Vatican before. I sat in the Vatican, looking at the building from 6 a.m. to 7. There was nobody there. There's nobody there. I couldn't sleep the night before because I don't know, for some reason, I have a grandmother that she passed away and she never got to see the Vatican, and she was extremely religious. And for some reason, when I went to the Vatican and I sat there for some reason the whole night I couldn't sleep. So when I got to the Vatican, I just went to the Vatican when the sunrise was coming up. It was incredible. It was an incredible experience. And And I just stood there at the Vatican, completely empty, nobody there, me and like 2 or 3 other priests that were coming probably from around the world. I asked one of the priests, where are you from? He's like, I'm from Nigeria. I came here to get an experience. And I was like, okay, cool. And then you can see a couple of other ones kind of hanging out and stuff. And I just stood there for about an hour and I was like soaking in the experience. And one of the big things in my mind was like, I can't believe that I came from a family that was generationally poor. And I'm standing here in front of the Vatican at sunrise, where, I believe that my grandmother, my grandparents that were extremely religious, they passed away, they wish they would have been here. And for me to be here now is such a blessing and such an opportunity. So I made that story again to kind of just share with you that these experiences are unique and you're not going to always get the chance in life to go out and enjoy them. And you don't want to enjoy them when you're in a wheelchair. You don't want to do that. You don't want to be my grandparents and pass away and not have had an enjoyment where you went around the world and did everything that you wanted to do. And you don't want to do it when you're old, right? Where right now you are scheduled and you're programmed to get to the point where when you retire, you're retiring at an old age. And retiring at an old age sucks. You don't want to be the retired person in a wheelchair going to Italy and being chauffeured around in your wheelchair and, having something around your neck when you're eating because you're going to spill things on your shirt. You want to walk around and be young and healthy and you want to hang out and enjoy life and do things that you could just jump on and do. You don't want to be retirement age when you're out there. In fact, I didn't really see a lot of retirees that were old. I saw a lot of young people out there doing this. And it means that people have figured out, a lot of them have figured out how to get this done in a very young age. Look, these sessions are to help us learn. And I've gotten a lot of feedback from these sessions before that, the information has been important. It's motivational. It's been, it's been great. It's been great details. So, it's been information that even people have felt, man, I should have almost even felt like I paid for it. Right. So, keep that in mind, and we'll talk about that more. But tonight, the main importance is there's rules, and the rules are grab a pen and paper, write this stuff down, the stuff that you learned tonight, turn off your cell phones, turn them off because you don't need them right now. This is a time to learn. If you are not capable as an adult to be able to just stay focused and turn your cell phone off for 30 minutes, how are you going to be able to get to become multi-millionaire status in over a 30-year period and have the consistency there? There's a problem, and you are sucked into a lot of these things that are distracting you, and you got to remove those distractions. And talking about distractions, readjust that environment. If you have kids running around you, if you're doing 3 things at the same time, finish one off, finish another thing off, sit down and actually listen to this stuff because it's important. And that's why I say when you pay attention, you get paid. You get paid to pay attention because the things that you learn, you can use them to go make money, right? And in fact, I'll kind of give you the answer here. I've had somebody pay me to learn this information, to learn a lot of this information, right? So why go out and risk that value? This is why be distracted. Why do all these things when you can absorb what one of our guys have actually paid for, right? It's like people have actually paid for this stuff and to learn this. So please, take the opportunity to pay attention. Today's agenda, we're going to go through some market challenges. So discussing the current issues that are impacting the economy. Number 2 is we're going to go through a store of value. So storing value, super important. Just weighing pros and cons of different asset classes. And then number 3, we're going to go through some strategies for success, especially around the market conditions that we're currently in right now. All I need is from you guys is that when you get this information and you learn it, that you actually apply it and you implement it into the day-to-day life or the things that you're going to next now be doing, right? Like, please implement it. If you're learning about these things, implement them. Don't just listen and say, oh, this was great. Great session. It should be where you also take it further than that and apply it to your life and do something with it, right? Why am I doing this? Because look, when I first started, I was working at Walmart. When I first started, I was working at Walmart. This is me on the right-hand side in my first, banking job, working after I got out of Walmart. And before you know it, I started climbing, in different ways, different types of jobs. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. One thing I was always consistent with was I was always investing my money from all the jobs that I had. When I was at Walmart, I didn't have a good job, so I didn't have a lot of money at all. But when I finally got a little bit of banking experience, and then I finally got some experience in tech, before you know it, I had some money, and I was able to apply some of that money into my investments. And when I started to learn the trick there, the strategy there was financing. Whether you had high interest rate financing or low interest rate financing, it didn't matter. The point is that learning how to assess a deal, learning how to then take money from someone else, whether that be from a bank or from a private lender, and then using it to go and buy yourself a deal, that was the key for me. That was because it is a lot harder to save $1 million when you're broke than it is to borrow $1 million from the bank. It's a lot harder to save the money up. It takes a lot longer to save the money than it does to borrow the money. I could borrow the money with, a lower income and a pretty good credit score. It takes me 30 days. Right? I'm working with a guy right now that he has that same situation. He has a low income. He has a decent credit score. He's a pretty low to decent credit score, but he's approved for an FHA loan to buy a property. He's approved there. He's approved for a green loan to buy a property. He's approved for a fix and flip loan, 90% loan to value, 10% down payment. He can buy pretty much almost anything, and he can borrow it in less than 30 days. In 30 days, this is the benefit that you have, especially being in the United States. Is that is an exceptional value, powerful value that you don't have, especially in a lot of countries outside of the United States. And so because of that, I took a lot of that financing and I went and I bought myself real estate. Simple as that. I went and I bought myself some real estate, and I used a method that I had an OG talk to me about one time. He's like, don't go take out a home equity line of credit. Don't buy yourself a house. Don't buy yourself a car. Don't buy any of that stuff because you're going to take out personal debt. You're going to be liable for that debt. Your income that comes in from your paychecks is going to be allocated towards that negative debt. And all of that is going to factor against your ability to buy more assets, to buy more real estate. He said, keep yourself clean. I was like, what does that mean? Keep yourself clean. Buy yourself real estate that earns more income for you. Because when you do that, the bank loves to see that the business that you bought, that property, is producing revenue. It produces income. And when it produces income, it's more money into your pocket, which means you're not making less. You're not paying a loan. You're getting paid to take out a loan. Banks love that. I thought that was the best advice, and I'll always appreciate that person for telling me that. It was the best advice I could have ever gotten. I went deep down the rabbit hole of going in and taking as many possible loans out as I could on buying new properties and using money that wasn't mine to buy real estate. It was a fantastic idea, and it changed my life. It changed my life. I didn't think that would happen, but it did. And I get people messaging me all the time about this now. So I'm like the guy that's paying it forward and saying, hey, like, this is how you do it. This is what you do. This is why we have a lot of these sessions, right? We have these sessions so that you can hear like, oh, this is what this guy did in order to get to that point. So, it's not rocket science. I'll tell you this right now. If you have third grade reading comprehension level, you can very easily do what I did. So it's, now putting it into the right steps, right? Putting it into the right steps. That is where that's where the magic happens, right? That's where the magic happens, because along the way, there's a lot of missteps. There's a lot of mistakes, money loss, manipulation, scams, issues that you can face. And the last thing you want to do is lose precious money, right? That's one thing that, unfortunately, I was a victim of at the very beginning of my journey. I lost a lot of money. I didn't have the internet and things like that so prominent as they are today. When I first started, I was in 2011. iPhones were not what they super computers like they are right now. The access to information, the access to knowledge online, all of the mentors and all this, none of that really existed like that. It was a lot less than what it is today. This stuff really started coming about from 2016 onwards, and now it's like everybody's like, oh, everybody's a real estate investor, so it's like but in 2011, 2012, that wasn't like that. It was hard to really learn this stuff. I mean, in 2008, when I left, and I started trading for the first time, 2008, I was still making trades through the phone, right? So you might think to yourself like, damn, well, this guy is a little young. It's like, I'm 35 years old. I'm actually I'm not like old, but I'm up there. And my experiences range all the way from even being, going through the problems of 2008. I worked at the bank in 2008. So I saw people coming in crying and experiencing what a lot of people are going through again right now. It's very similar situations is what's happening from that time to today. And this time is a little bit, in some ways, it's different from a real estate perspective. In fact, it's more of a flight to safety, to assets over owning dollars, cash, which is a little bit strange because during the 2008, it wasn't like that, right? It wasn't like that. In 2008, everybody wanted cash. They wanted to move out of assets. They wanted to move out of assets and go to cash. Get out of real estate, go to cash. Cash is king. That was the statement in 2008. But let me explain something to you. If you were to go back in time from 2008 to 2000 and let's say 12, 13, in that period, everybody was asking for printing money. Please print money. Please print money. We need to stimulate the economy. We got to bring back jobs. We got to bring back money into the circulation. This is a problem. The money supply is an issue. The market is an issue. We're going into a complete collapse. What did the Fed do? The Fed started printing a ton of money. Okay. What's going on today? It's interesting how things have changed because now the tone is completely different. Please stop printing money. Please, you're destroying the markets. You're destroying the markets. You're creating massive inflation. You're creating increases in cost of living and prices and housing and food and utility. Everything is going up because you're printing money. They didn't stop printing. They just said, hey, now we got to print. Now we got to keep on printing money until we just implode this thing. It is crazy how we went from a market where everybody said, please inject money, to today saying, bro, please stop. Like, we need to stop this. This is madness. You're going to blow up our currency. We're not going to have a reserve currency anymore. Nobody's going to trust our dollar. Nobody's going to take it. If every year it's going down by 10%, nobody's going to use it. A reserve currency doesn't lose its value as fast as what the dollar is losing its value. So we're not going to be able to use this, right? And that's what's been happening. And the tone has changed. And when the tone, if you are a stock picker or you're an investor and you know how to identify deals or market changes, the market's changed. The market's been changing over the last 12 months. The market's been changing. And if you haven't been watching, then you're under a rock and you need to wake up. Because before you know it, it'll be like in Turkey or in Argentina that their currency has completely collapsed and you can barely use it to spend on anything. It's wheelbarrow money is what I call it. Wheelbarrow money. Money that you have to literally fill a wheelbarrow in order to go buy yourself a loaf of bread. Right? If you go to Venezuela, they went through that. If you go to Argentina, they're going through that right now. If you go to Turkey, they're going through that. This is easily tens of millions of people. If you ever been to Turkey, that's tens of millions of people right there alone. I went to Turkey. Me and Val, we went to Turkey a few months ago. We went to Istanbul, and when we got there, I took out $500. I spent $80 in the exchange between the dollar to the lira. And I left after 2 weeks of being in Turkey, going to Cappadocia, going all through Turkey. I rented a yacht. I rented for a day. I rented. We went shopping. We went to all the finest restaurants. We had a family of, I call it a team of six people the entire time. We stayed in an amazing Airbnb. I left. We left. Val would walk the streets, and we would give money away to kids, Syrian refugees that were walking in those streets. I left. We left 2 weeks later with $250 equivalent worth of lira still in our pockets. $250. We used $200, maybe a little bit more, maybe slightly a little bit more than that, in 2 weeks worth of time being there with doing all of those things. $200 for 6 people for 2 weeks. We went to every restaurant you could think of. We ordered everything. We bought God knows how many things at the Grand Bazaar. And we spent $200 for 2 weeks. You can live there off of nothing. And so what I'm trying to explain to you is that this is already happening in other countries right now at this very moment. At this very moment. You know, why is Bitcoin going up? It's not that Bitcoin's going up. I want you to know that this is big. It's not that Bitcoin's going up. It's that the dollar's value is coming down. Don't get confused. When you have a pair of Bitcoin and dollar and they are paired together, if the dollar falls or is falling in value, of course Bitcoin's going to rise. Anything that's paired to the dollar, if the dollar is falling, anything is going to rise. And so if you go look right now at the Russian ruble, or you go look right now at any of these foreign currencies that are out there, crazy enough, the rupees, the rupiahs, the pesos, compared to the dollar is coming down, and these other currencies are starting to rise. It is insane. Insane. And when you start thinking about it, you're going to realize that for you to travel and go do all of these beautiful, amazing things in life, the last thing you want to do is start looking at Airbnbs in Italy or start looking at Airbnbs in some beautiful island somewhere, and you realize, oh my God, I cannot afford this. What is going on? I can't afford it. Why is it so expensive to go to Mexico? No, it's not that it's expensive to go to Mexico. It's that the dollar you're using, the currency you're using, is getting diluted at a faster rate than what the market conditions are in that area. A Russian is going over to these places and they don't have a problem spending it. They're spending $15,000 a month. Fine, no problem with me. But you're seeing it as, wow, how am I going to be able to afford a $700 a night regular standard Airbnb? Where am I going to pull that money from? How am I going to go on vacation and spend this money? So it's time to control your investments. It's time to control your money, because holding cash has become trash, right? It's purely become trash. And by holding on to trash, your wealth, your family, the money you make is getting diluted to a level where you have to work harder and become a slave to working harder than you've ever worked before to make less than you've ever made before. Let me repeat that. You have to work harder than ever before to make less money than you ever made before, simply because your purchasing power outside of the United States, and even in it, is diluting. And you're losing value. And it's no longer just a matter of inflation. It's affordability. Before you know it, you'll be asking, with $100,000 income, you'll be asking the government to send you a check every month because you can't afford your life. This has already been predicted in the past. There's a model that's over 100 years old and has a 90% accuracy rate. And it was actually created in 1872 by a man named George Trich. And he predicted that we have these cycles. They're about 10 years apart from each other. And this is predicted 90% of our rises and falls over the last 100 years. And he predicted that in 2019, we would have a crazy rise. And we did. We actually had an incredible rise. But then we came down. By 2023, we have a fall. And that 2023 now has pulled us back. Right? 2022, we pulled back. And that's what's happened. In 2022, we had a pullback, and it's a 10-year cycle. So we won't see another rise, unfortunately, until 2032. And it's a very simple model, but it's based upon the highs and lows of the psychology of human evolution. This has already been modeled for us. So in 2019 was our height point. And 2022 was now our return back to a low, which means, okay, and this is what he described, the years of hard times, low prices, and a good time to buy stocks, real estate, and goods, and hold them until the boom reaches the years of good times. Then you unload those assets. So if right now you were to be buying during this period, your goal were to be to hold until George Trich's model goes back to a level where we are in a rise again. And that rise is likely to take effect from 2032 to 2035. So that would be your period where if you were buying between 2022 to 2032, your unloading period would be from 2032 to 2035. Remember, I asked you guys a question. Do you believe the market will be higher or lower over the next 5 years? And you all said that it's going to be higher. Well, look back again in 10 years. In 10 years from now, in 9 years from now, will the market be higher or lower? You got to admit to yourself, it's going to be way higher in 10 years, especially if we're printing money. The average $150,000, $200,000 home, this doesn't even exist anymore. The average now is $250,000 to $400,000. And before you know it, it's going to be $1 million. And you're going to think to yourself, that is insane. How is that possible? How is that possible? It's possible because of dilution, printing money. Printing money. Loaf of bread at $10. Loaf of bread at $20. Loaf of bread at $50. And you're going to think to yourself, how is it possible that in my life, the dollar is now 50 times less valuable? Well, because over a 5-10 year period, if the dollar is diluting between 6 and 10%, that's a 50% dilution in 5 to 10 years. So in 5 to 10 years, you can imagine that your real estate, your assets, your Bitcoin, your gold is going to inflate in value by 50% or more. It's a simple math. It's as simple as you could possibly get. But people don't think long term. They're not thinking about, man, how can I protect my wealth? How can I protect all this money that I'm making? Look, what you're going to learn tonight, if you haven't already started to pick up some of the things that I'm teaching here and I'm giving you some exposure to, is I want you to learn about the economy, macroeconomics. I want you to understand some of this stuff, right? I want you to discover some powerful strategies you can use to actually build some wealth during this next 10 years. I want you to unlock some of this money that's sitting on the market. I also want to talk about some of these banks failing and causing panics. The government stepping in, paying out crazy amounts of billions, trillions of dollars worth of money to these companies. You know, they're no longer doing it. You're not hearing about the government printing money and bailing out banks because they're doing it in a different way this time. History doesn't repeat itself. History rhymes. You've seen probably some of this mentioned in the market, and it's the truth. You're not going to see that the same thing happens exact to the T all over again, but you're going to see that it happens very similarly. Eerily, in fact, it happens again. And what you're seeing this time that you saw just last time in 2008 is that when banks fail this time, instead of the government going direct and bailing them out, they're sending printed money to large institutional banks. And then the large institutional banks on Sunday night are meeting and they are bailing out these smaller banks by buying them at cheap prices. And then the government is saying, well, hey, we're going to backstop all of these deposits. So if in the event that this bank fails, we'll backstop it. But really all they're saying is JP Morgan bought that small bank. So if JP Morgan fails, we're going to need to bail them out because they're too big to fail. If Bank of America fails, that's too big to fail. The entire economy will come down. So it's a very sneaky way for them to have bailed out these companies and done it off printed money. Who are the ones that lose? The ones that lose are the people holding the currency that's being used to print and bail out these bad investments that these banks have done. And we're the ones that take that loss. You know, when the people that have the money sitting in these banks that fail, which by the way, there is a silent run on banks right now. It's no longer, and I want to be very clear with you, bank runs don't happen like they used to happen back in the day. People don't run to the bank anymore and take their money out. They transfer money online from their bank to another bank. It's a simple process, and they do it in just a few minutes. So when you are sitting there thinking, oh, everything's fine, no problem. Nobody's standing in line at the ATMs anymore. No big deal. Yeah, because they moved their money somewhere else. Just because you don't see them standing in line doesn't mean that they're not sending their money elsewhere. Just like, hey, my buddy buys all his stuff on Amazon. He doesn't have to go into the store to go buy all his things. He has his groceries sent to his house. He has all his stuff that he enjoys sent to his house. He doesn't need to go anywhere. It all comes to him. That doesn't mean that he's not buying things. He's buying more things than you. But for some reason, the misconception is that, oh, wait a second, because he's not standing in line at the store, everything's fine. Guys, the world has changed. The market is completely changed. Trillions of dollars have moved outside of the country into other currencies, into other hedges, into other asset classes. It is moving out. It's unfortunate. I hate to say it, but if you have dilution taking effect at a fast rate, at a very fast rate, at an uncontrollable rate, with a government that is incompetent, to say the least, you're going to have massive losses. Before you know it, the government is going to have to sell national treasures in the United States just to pay back debt to China. Gold itself in the country, in the United States, hasn't been audited for almost 50 years. We don't even know how much gold there really is. It's been held privately inside of a government facility. And this is proof of it. Just to show you the proof of what happened in Germany during that time. From 1918 to 1923, just 6 years. Think about it. Where are we right now? We're at the beginning of a 10-year potential issue. The beginning of one. So if we're at the beginning of one, this is the time to really learn and develop on what could potentially happen over these next few years so you can be ahead of it and take advantage of it if something does happen. And so the reason why we're having this conversation is because this is what happened already in the past. Look at Germany. Germany, from 1918, which was a 1-to-1 dollar ratio, went to $1 basically trillion paper marks for $1. 6 years. You know why it happened? Because they printed money. And that's to summarize it, to make it easy. But the real truth is because they were fighting crazy wars that didn't make sense. Sounds very similar, right, to what we're doing right now? Crazy wars that didn't make sense. And they were printing money so that they could fund all of these things that didn't make sense. And because of it, they inflated their money so high to a level where other countries didn't trust using their money because it was diluting so fast. So eventually, other countries stopped using it. And when other countries stopped using it, the circulating supply of that currency fell back to the country that was printing it in the first place, leaving everybody that was a citizen holding the bag on all this printed paper that was useless in other countries elsewhere. This is called hyperinflation. And if you notice, everything points to what happened when we went through, or when the German mark went through hyperinflation. The banks had runs, money started moving, countries started saying, we're not going to accept that currency or use it as much anymore. This is what happened during that period. And then you had 3-4 years of decent growth, but it was still diluting. And people started realizing, wait a second, why is shit getting so expensive? Everything was working so well. Why is everything getting so expensive? Why is it costing us so much money to live? And then all of a sudden it was like, wait a second, I can't afford living. And then it was like, wait a second, now we have to put rent caps and we have to get subsidized money from the government and we have to run to the store the moment we get paid, because if we don't run to the store, by the time we get to the store tomorrow, the inflation have taken 10%, 15% of the value of our money in just one day. Look at the dates. Don't they seem interesting to you? Did that stand out to you? Did anybody notice the dates? Exactly 100 years. 1918, 1919, 1920, 1921, 1922, 1923. Where are we right now? 2023? Isn't that interesting that history rhymes? Isn't that interesting? I would say so. I would say so. And then the golden goose out of all of this is that, I mean, look, when it inflates, it does it in 1 year, like that. It inflates so fast that it's hard for you to be able to even do anything about it. You can't do anything about it. What are you going to do? Val and I traveled to Croatia. Okay, we traveled to Croatia, and we're going to go again soon. We traveled to Croatia, and we were sitting with one of the owners of the Airbnb that we had, right? So we stayed at one of the Airbnbs, beautiful Airbnb, very cheap. And we asked them, we're like, so, you know, how's the currency here? They use something called the kuna, right? You've never heard about it because it's trash. It's like, who's going to use it? You're never going to use it. And they're like, well, it hyperinflated. And since it hyperinflated, we have to use two currencies. And I'm like, what do you mean? We use the euro and we use the kuna. And I said, why? And they're like, because technically what we're doing is, because our currency failed, we're transitioning. And I said, well, what do you mean? How does that make sense? And they're like, when we're failing on the kuna, basically we're paying for our things. The natural citizens here are paying for our things in the currency that we were using as a country here before. But since that's imploded, we're asking tourists and when we do service work and to pay us in a different currency. So and then we take that currency, we have to exchange it back for kuna, and then we pay our stuff in kuna, and they're using two different currencies. Just like in Venezuela, you would use the currency that they have in the peso, but then you could also use the dollar. And so now you could use the dollar more, but by using $1, by using $5, you'll have to exchange it back to Venezuelan pesos, or in Colombia, the same thing, just to break down that value of the currency even more. Because if you go to those countries and use a $10 bill, it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money. You go to Turkey, like I said, and you use a $10 bill, they're going to be like, whoa, hey, put that away. Put that away. A $10 bill. So it goes to show you, I think eventually you will see that it's unfortunate, but you will see that there will be an implementation of a secondary currency because the first one is failing. And so you have to start moving things over to the second. By the time that happens, you are already late. Unfortunately, you're already too late. You are already sitting on too many dollars, not enough assets, and your money wasn't protected. And because of that, you were debased, unfortunately, and you have to now transition your wealth to a new currency that'll be more valuable than the previous currency you had. But of course, in that transition, you're going to be worth less money. Simple as that. What can you expect over the next 5 years? Uncertainty. I mean, the political system, I don't know if you're seeing it, but it's out of control. It's all over the place. It's like there's, there's Trump. There's all types of problems with the political system. It's insane, right? It's absolutely ridiculous. So that's a cause. That's a cause from the effect of money being a problem, right? The Fed's decision to print more money to save the banks could lead to inflation. We're already seeing that. Banks may become more cautious with their lending practices. That's what they're going to do, right? That's what they're going to do. Sorry about that. I want to show you guys, just so you guys can see real fast, because I have here, and I just want to take really quick to address this. Laysan that says, I'm from Turkey. It's not like that. For $200 US, you won't be able to have a dinner at a good restaurant for 6 people. Let me just show you here real fast, just to screen share this. Let's just go, just a quick little good. Just all you got to do is just Google search it. This is the Turkish lira. This is the Turkish lira. It's basically down and to the right. It's worth nothing, zero. So I get where you're coming from, but I was just there, and I can vouch for the fact that I was handing money to kids in the streets, and it was the equivalent of handing them 50 cents worth of USD. It was pathetic. That's what it is, right? That's what this is. This is funny money, right? That's what this is. This is funny money, right? We're starting to get to the point where the US dollar is backed by nothing. It's backed by nothing. Unfortunately. Like, there is literally nothing there. It's more money, more printed money. It's like going into on a monopoly board, taking some money out and say, oh, hold on, let me take more money out. It's like, what is that based off of? It's not based off of anything. There's nothing there to back it. So let's go into some ways to store value, store wealth, right? 3 ways to store value, right? We're going to talk about the pros and cons of gold, for example. You can buy gold. Okay, you can buy gold through an IRA. It means that it's tax deferred. You don't have to pay any taxes on it. So you can take the money that you make from your hard-earned income, and you can buy physical gold, real gold. I'm not talking about buying shares of gold. I'm talking about buying real gold. Okay? Real gold. And you can do this through an IRA. And an IRA allows you to buy real gold and then store the gold in large facilities or have it sent to you. But for the most part, you're going to hold it inside of a gold IRA, right? But you're buying this physical gold, right? Gold has retained 97% of its purchasing power over the last 70 years. 97% of its value has been retained. You know what the opposite effect of that 97% was? 97% dilution in the dollar's value over the last 70 years. 97%. Lost 100% of our value in the dollar. So what you would have bought for $1 is now, wow, way more expensive. And you know that. You've seen it. Your parents used to buy properties for $30,000. Now you're buying them for $300,000. Doesn't that kind of like, I don't know. Like, doesn't that make sense? Right? Why? Because there's a limited supply. There's a limited supply of it. Did you know that there is only enough registered and valid gold in the world to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool? Did you know that? Maybe you didn't. But if you go look it up right now, how much gold is there in the world right now? And there is enough gold in the world to simply fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. If you melted all of it down, all of it, if you melted it all down, there would only be enough to fill a swimming pool. And for those of you that are like, well, we can always just go mine it. It's expensive. It's inefficient. It's in some places it's illegal. Go try to mine for gold in South America and see how they'll confiscate your land, and you will never be able to even own land again. You have to go to particular spots, and it is very difficult and also very costly to go and extract gold from the ground. And it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways unless you have a massive enterprise around it. And even then, we add fractions of gold to our supply year over year. And most holders of gold are governments. And in fact, if you own gold, it can be confiscated. It's the one thing as an asset that's so precious, that's so valuable, that even governments in the past and even in today's period have made gold hoarding illegal. If you hold too much of it, they can confiscate it from you. They'll pay you for it, maybe, but they can confiscate it from you, take it away. And that's already happened, right? It already happened. It happened in the past, correct? So it can happen again, right? It can happen again. They can confiscate your gold. They can outlaw it and say, well, it's illegal. If somebody comes in and, did you hear about the thing about the cash? In some countries now, if you spend, it is illegal to spend more than 1,000 paper currency dollars or whatever it is that you're using currency-wise. It is illegal to spend more than $1,000 worth of paper money. In some countries, they're trying to make that a law. Why? Because they don't want paper. They want to try to transition everything over to something else. When you go deposit money in cash in a bank, try to deposit cash right now into one of your buddy's accounts at the bank and see if you can do it. You can't. You're not allowed to deposit cash into the bank of somebody else's account. You're not allowed to do that. You have to be the account holder to deposit cash into your bank. Just a few years ago, you were able to. Why don't banks want to accept cash? Isn't that weird? Why don't banks want to accept cash? Because there's not enough of it? No, that's not what it is. It's because there's too much of it and they don't want it. They don't want it. They don't want to be sitting on a bunch of paper when things hit the fan. Gold. The thing is, gold is getting pricey. It's getting expensive, but it's a great hedge. And a 10% of your portfolio in gold can become an exceptional way to store value and retain some ownership of something, right, in the future. Let's talk about the next thing that people don't, maybe a lot of you guys don't believe in. It's okay. You don't have to believe it. Look, people didn't believe in electricity. There used to be, I'm going to share with you a photo that I saw just the other day. And I want you to, people didn't believe in the internet. Think about that. People didn't believe in the internet. Think about that. I want to show you this photo real fast. And let me go ahead and pull it up so you can see it really quickly. Here we go. Let me show you this so you can see. So back in the 1800s, okay, back in the 1800s, when electricity was first becoming an established process or system or whatever, I guess whatever you want to, call it, when it was becoming a thing, right? When it was becoming a thing, people used to criticize electricity, right? Electricity. Dude, we use electricity for everything now. We can't survive without electricity. We cannot survive without electricity. Today, we can't survive. A lot of people can't even survive without the internet, right? You can't even make a living without the internet, right? So this was a picture that you might not have ever seen before. An unrestrained demon. And this is people literally saying that electricity is going to kill everyone. That by having all these cables and all these wires and everything up there, that it is a disaster for society, and that everybody is going to become is going to die. This is the type of cartoons that they would paint pictures of and create to spread fear and to keep everyone behind. And this would come from companies. Who would make this? You know who used to make this? The companies that were, think about it. Who made these images? You know who made these images? The guys that produced the oil. The guys that made the lanterns. They made these images. Those were the guys that created this. The same people that are out there saying, don't get into gold, don't get into Bitcoin, don't get into these assets, are the same guys that are asking you to stay in all cash. Companies that were selling the oil for the lanterns and the lanterns themselves were the first ones to create fear. It's the same thing that we're seeing today. The first companies that are creating fear around a currency that could potentially save us from having massive dilution consequences, still give us value, a means of value exchange, and cross-border payment options at lightning speed. I mean, that's an innovation in and of itself on a fully transparent blockchain that's 100% decentralized. I mean, dude, that's an innovation that you've never seen before. That's a gift from the gods. And these banks are the ones that are funding the FUD around assets like Bitcoin and assets like gold, right? And I just wanted to share that with you because it's always happened. It's something that's been around for a long time. This is nothing new. This isn't anything new. You know what's new is you getting into it. It's new for you, but it's not new for the markets and for the strategies that these guys take to empower themselves. Imagine if I'm a huge, wealthy, multi-billion-dollar, powerhouse, and I have you addicted to my banks, Why would I want you to have your own currency that you can use whenever you want that has the same value or more? Why would I want you to have that? You're going to take the value. You're going to take, what do you know about money? You don't know anything about money. Why am I going to give you that power to make decisions on your own? I don't want you to do that. I want to have that power. I've had it for 100 years. Why am I going to have that taken away? So the beauty of Bitcoin is that it is decentralized. It is also limited. There cannot be more that is made from it. It is completely 100% fixed. It is also spread over a long period of time, so it's incrementally being released. So that means it is always in high demand and limited supply. So you'll always see it is systematically programmed to rise. There was a survey that was conducted around people that don't own Bitcoin and people that do own Bitcoin. It was a really interesting survey. They actually did the same survey with people around real estate. And they do these surveys during good markets and during bad markets, right? During good market conditions and during bad market conditions. And they asked a group of people, and you can go look this up. They asked what they call no coiners, so people that don't own Bitcoin, and people that do own Bitcoin, coiners and no coiners. And they asked these two groups of people if they believe in Bitcoin, right? Like just basic questions around Bitcoin. Do you believe in it? Do you think it's a store of value, et cetera, et cetera? How many do you have? How many do you own? How many can you afford, right? And the takeaway from that survey was very, very interesting, and it was revealing. It was a revealing effect. And what they revealed was the same thing that was around. They had the same survey around gold, same survey around Bitcoin, same survey around real estate, right? So they had the same survey around three. And when they did this survey with these people that had assets and didn't have assets, the people that had assets were 100% maximalists. They were all in. They were like, I own this. But the people that were no holders, they didn't hold these assets, were like completely anti and against. But there was a fundamental difference between the people that were all in and the people that were not all in. And here's what the difference was. The difference was that the people that were all in, they could afford to buy one full thing of whatever it was. They could buy one full bar of gold. They could buy one house. They could buy one Bitcoin. The people that were not all in didn't have enough money to buy a full of any of them. They didn't have a full amount to buy a Bitcoin. They didn't have a full amount to buy real estate. They have a full amount to buy gold, an ounce of gold or whatever it is. They didn't have the full amount to buy it. So they would have to buy fractional amounts of it. And because they felt like, man, it's too expensive because I can't buy a full one. So since I can't buy a full one, it doesn't make sense for me to own it. So I don't believe it. So it's not real. So it's not something that I want. Just because you can't afford it doesn't mean that it's not a valid instrument to protect you. It's like saying, I don't think it's a good time to buy real estate because I can't afford it. Doesn't make sense. That's illogical. Because I guarantee you that same person, if they had money to buy real estate, they wouldn't be saying that. They would go and buy the real estate. But because they don't have the money to buy real estate, they never believe that it's a good time to buy real estate because in their minds, they can't afford it. So they don't believe in it. They only believe in it when they can afford it. So for example, with Bitcoin, you're not going to see a lot of people that can afford Bitcoin because it's worth thousands of dollars today. But you can still buy fractional amounts of Bitcoin. That's the beauty of it. And you can still protect a lot of the money that you do have, even if you have half of a Bitcoin or a fraction of a Bitcoin. In other countries, they know they're never going to be able to buy a full Bitcoin, maybe for their entire lives. But they're completely okay with owning a fractional amount of value of that Bitcoin because it is much better to own a fractional amount of Bitcoin than it is to own their dying Argentinian peso or their dying lira. They would rather store their money somewhere that if in the event this currency keeps on diluting and coming down to nothing, that they actually have some retained value. Remember, this is not about making money. You haven't heard me talking about making money in this session. We have been talking about protecting money. It's a very different thing. I'm not telling you, hey, buy Bitcoin or buy gold so you become a millionaire. That's not what I'm telling you. I'm saying you buy Bitcoin or you buy gold so that you don't lose all of the value in dilution of the money that you currently do have. That's all I'm saying. And that's where most people get caught up with this. Well, I'm not going to become a millionaire because I don't own one Bitcoin. Yeah, but you're going to get further away from being a millionaire because the currency you do own is diluting in value at a faster rate than Bitcoin is losing value. It's the craziest thing. And so it isn't about making millions of dollars in this protection game. It's about saving your money from being lost and becoming a victim to dilution, inflation, taxation, and essentially worth nothing. Where when you go take it to another country or you want to go buy an asset of any kind, you wouldn't be able to afford it because the value of the currency that you were holding is not worth much. Bitcoin is not a thing to get rich that a lot of people have been perceiving it to be. Bitcoin is a thing to protect against losing the value of your dollar, losing the value of the currency that you have. If you were in Ukraine and you were using your money and then all of a sudden you get invaded by Russia and something happens and you move your money into Bitcoin, let me tell you, right now, the people that did that are far better off than the people that had all their money sitting in a bank in Ukraine. And so for anybody that thinks, well, that's not valid and it doesn't make sense to have because it has no value behind it, well, the value is the protection. The value is owning something that if in the event that the currency you have goes to complete shit or the country that you have becomes, there's a systemic problem, that you have something in your protection that you can control instantly, immediately, at that very moment. I shared this with somebody yesterday, and I'll share it with you again. We have a folder, okay? We have a folder in our house, and we have an emergency bag that we always carry with us. And this folder has our certificates. It has all of our marriage certificates, birth certificates, and everything of the kind, right? Copies of them are on our hard drive. And then we have our passports, which is our most important things, all of our passports. And what's our third thing that we see in there? What's our third thing? It's our hardware wallet. It's our protection. It's our safe. It's our money. This is what rich people do. They keep their money with them. They're taking the money with them. When we travel from one country to the next, the banking system gets more and more complicated. But we just put it in here into this little device and we take it everywhere we want to go. There you go. This is our protection. If something ever happens to us, boom, put it on our person. This is the most important thing. It's a folder with our travel documents, registrations, money. Worst case situation is my debit card doesn't work, or my bank account is frozen, or the online banking system has been taken down because the bank had a run on it and they said, well, due to technical difficulties, online banking is shut down for 24 hours or for 48 hours and you're going through the shitstorm. I can go online at any location around the world, plug in my device with no internet connection and be able to access my money, transfer money immediately at a cafe, transact using some form of either Bitcoin or Ethereum or anything, and get myself the help I need. If that doesn't have a value, I don't know what else does. I'm sorry. I don't know what else does. And number 3, real estate. Why is real estate so valuable? Let me tell you one thing about real estate. In the United States especially, you're never going to see confiscation at a grand scale of real estate because it's similar to how China perceives the United States. Why hasn't China, with it having millions of people in their military, or Russia, which has equivalent power and nuclear arsenal as what the United States have, why haven't these countries just come together and said, you know what, let's just go and invade and take over the United States? They're such a pain in the ass. Let's just go take over them. Why don't they do it? Why don't any countries come to the United States and try to take over? Because the United States has a law that allows their citizens to own weapons. If you show up at one of my properties, my tenants are legally allowed to have a weapon on them. And if you try to take them out of that house, they have a weapon on them. Try to take them out of that house and see what happens. Try to take me out of my house with my weapons and see what happens. You better have some weapons to take us out. And if we band together as a community and you're trying to take all of our community away, let's see what you can do. Because I guarantee you, you go to Texas or you go to one of these red states and you try to confiscate people's housing, and they're not going to stand for it. So it's what they say all around the world. You can't invade a country that their citizens have the most everyone has the most military. We have the most militarized country in the world. Doesn't matter whether you say, oh, we only have 500,000 military personnel or 1 million military personnel. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. Because back when the British came in, who was the one that really stood up? The people. The people had weapons. The people said, we're never going to have this happen to us again. They're never going to come in here and try to take our land from us. They're never going to do any of these things. And if they try, they're going to have to pull all of our weapons from our hands. And so that's why real estate is actually in the United States so valuable, because real estate is a protection against a confiscation. It's a protection against dilution. In fact, when things dilute, real estate goes up. Crazy as it is. So for those of you guys that are like, man, well, I'm never going to be able to buy a house. That's probably true. You might never be able to buy a house if we keep diluting the currency, because the more diluted it continues to become, the more likely real estate continues to rise, the more likely rent continues to rise, because the cost of maintaining the house goes up, taxes go up, utilities goes up. When you dilute currency, everything rises with it. So owning real estate is an incredible way to create a hedge against. And here's the beauty between real estate, Bitcoin, and gold, right? The reason why I believe that real estate is the best method to become rich and successful and have a ton of money and have a hedge against dilution and all these amazing things that everybody has, right? And wants. Bitcoin and gold, you have to buy it using your own money that you make. And you might not have a lot of money. Let's be real. You might not have a lot of it. So you might be sitting here thinking to yourself like, okay, cool. I know Bitcoin is a hedge. I know gold is a hedge, but I don't have enough money for, enough gold or Bitcoin to feel that it's worth it, Rich. Okay. But real estate, you can use bank money, regardless of the interest rate, to buy a property. You don't need all of your money. In fact, you can buy real estate with no money. You can buy real estate with 10% down, 5% down, 3% down. There really isn't an excuse there. So if you looked at the first two and you said, well, I need all the money to buy gold, I need all the money to buy Bitcoin, I feel like I missed the boat on those two things. Okay, well, real estate, you can still right now at this very moment, you can go and borrow money from the bank, from a lender, from a hard money provider, from an HML, from a PML. You can go and you can pull money right now at this moment to go and buy real estate that isn't even your own money to go and buy the real estate. And you make 100% of the benefits of that property with only putting down 5% or 10% risk in the deal. That's the beauty of real estate. Not only that, but when you hold Bitcoin or when you hold gold, you don't get paid money on a monthly basis. So even if money is diluting, you're still not making any return on a monthly basis. With real estate, you are. With Bitcoin and with gold, you might not have really good or at all tax benefits for holding those things. With real estate, you have incredible tax benefits. So as taxes become more and more, right? As taxes go higher, real estate becomes better. It becomes even more in demand because the more taxes go up, the more write-offs you want. And the most write-offs come from owning businesses or real estate assets. So you got to own real estate. It's a critical part of your portfolio. It is your foundation. It is real estate because it is the realest thing that you could possibly buy. It produces the best returns, the most consistent. Regardless of whether you're buying today in a 1% or 2% higher or 2% lower, it doesn't matter. For those of you that are like, well, interest rates are high, you can pay down points to buy lower interest rate on your mortgage. You can cash out refinance or refinance the loan in a year from now and lower your interest rate. Interest rates are irrelevant if you have a deal that is producing income or you can raise the rents on the property after you buy it. And right now, there's incredible amount of increased rents that have taken place in the country. So you can very well buy an underperforming property that over the last 2 years has not raised its rents because some tenant was living inside of it for the last 2 years, squatting and saying, I don't want to leave. I'm a good tenant. Please don't raise rent on me. And you buy the property and say, listen, I'm sorry, but I'm going to renovate this thing, make it nicer, and I have to raise the rents. And when you raise it, you think you're going to raise it by 3%? No, you're going to raise it by 25%, by 30%. So if you're paying 8% in interest or 7% in interest, but you just raise the rents by 25%, I don't know about you, but for me, I think that's going to cover the margin. That's going to cover the margin. But most people are so focused on the headlines, like, oh, well, I'm not going to buy real estate because interest rates are too high. Okay, what about if they go higher? What about if interest rates go higher? You're just going to sit your ass on the sidelines for 10 years? If interest rates keep going up, you're just going to be like, well, I'm just going to wait. Bro, you're going to be 50 years old by the time the interest rates come down. What are you going to do? You got a crystal ball that tells you, oh, well, in 2 years from now, the interest rates are going to come down. So I'm just going to bring. What is telling you that? All directions are pointing to interest rate increases. The Fed is actually still increasing the rates. After a bank run, after bank collapses, right after, they still increase the rates. And you're sitting here like, I'm a fortune teller. I'm the next Warren Buffett. I know that in a year from now, 2 years from now, interest rates are going to be 3% lower. They're going to be back to 5%. They're going to be back to 0%. How's that possible? When we have increased the debt ceiling and the debt load of the country by more than it's ever been over the last 100 years we've done in the last 2 years. How's that possible? How could you possibly imagine that's going to be the case? You got to be ridiculous to think that inflation and interest rates being at these levels are transitory. Transitory means that it's 1 or 2 years. I mean, we're just getting to the point where they're now starting to become high. You don't know a high interest rate until you see 15, 20%. And if we keep diluting the dollar like we're doing, and if other countries start to say, hey, we're not going to use this money like they're doing, then we have to raise interest rates in order to have a yield of some sort, like how any of these countries do that have second world currencies. And we're falling, unfortunately, to a second world currency, which means we need to have higher rates of interest. And if you tell yourself, oh, well, Rich, you know, if the interest rates, when the interest rates come down, that's when I'll buy. Okay, but here's two things. If interest rates come down, then there's going to be prices are going to go up. So by the time interest rates and you go to borrow money and the interest rates are lower, the prices are going to be higher. I would rather buy at lower prices with higher interest rate, because if the interest rates come down, I can refinance down my interest rate as the value of the property went up. I don't want the opposite. I don't want to buy high with a lower interest rate. That doesn't make sense. You can't refinance down the price of the property, but you can refinance down the interest rate. So you want to buy in a higher interest rate, lower priced property market cycle. You don't want to be buying at a low interest rate, high price property market cycle. That means you can't, it's like you're buying a property that's more expensive than it should be, then the price comes down. It doesn't make sense. That's such a rookie mistake. And a lot of you guys have the money, even though you think like, oh, well, I don't really have the money to, you have the money to invest. You have the money to buy real estate. You're just fatigued because you don't know. Because at the beginning of this session, we saw that 60% of you don't have any idea about what the market is going to do in the near term. 40% of you are betting that it's going to go up. 60% of you are betting that it's going to go down. You guys are all over the place in the near term. But you are all 95% of you know that in the next 5 years, it's going to be worth more. So why wouldn't you just figure a way to buy something now so that over these next 5 years, you produce a return, you make cash flow, you hedge against inflation, you get the best tax write-offs, you make money in a period of time when everyone else is losing money. You know why people lose money during recessions, right? Because they hold cash and there's dilution, there's loss of value, right? Or they are buying assets that they can't afford, or they already owned assets that they couldn't afford. In 2008, if you were to go back, right? If you go back to 2008, what happened in 2008? You know what the recession really hit hardest? It wasn't people that owned an investment property. It was people that owned a second home. It was people that owned primary homes. It was people that owned vacation homes. It was people that owned properties that weren't producing any money. Those properties that didn't produce money were the properties that fell into foreclosure. And there was so many of them because anybody could just walk into a bank and say, hey, I want a second home. And they'd be like, okay, here you go. Today, it's not like that anymore. And if you are buying an investment property that even during a downward cycle, you are still going to be making money on that asset because during downward cycles, rents still go up. You still are seeing that right now. Rents are still high. So real estate is a beautiful way to create wealth. And that's, that's a winning formula right there. And if you can get the trifecta, even better. Diversify the assets, diversify out of the dollar, diversify out of paper. You own paper. A lot of you guys are sitting on paper inside of your account. If the money is sitting in an account, that's paper. You have paper. It's like having a stack of printer paper. That's basically what it is. It's not worth anything until you actually do something with it. Focus on long term, not short term. Most of you guys are focusing on what's going to happen in the next 6 months. Who cares? Whether it goes up or goes down. You're focusing on the next 5 years. When you start focusing on 5 years, you'll make better investment decisions. When you focus on 6 months, you're trying to get into something in and out too fast, and you're trying to time something that you might not be good at doing, and you're going to lose money. listen, I'm not telling you to just put all your money, everything, every single penny into an emergency fund. Into an asset. But what I am saying is that you should have at least a little bit of nest egg, plus you should have money sitting inside of assets, right? Reduce some of your expenses. The shit that you're spending money on right now that you don't even need. There's stuff that every month, me and Val do an audit on all of our expenses, and we realize, like, oh my God, we just brought on like 3 things every month. Somehow, some way, the market, the way that systems operate now online, they're structured in such an interesting way that they like, oh, just sign up for this free thing that becomes like expensive all of a sudden in 30 days. Or, it's like free now, but then it becomes, or like just pay $10 now, and then like later it's $100. There's a strategy around these things, and you need to start looking at them and assessing where your money's going, because especially during periods where you need to retain as much of it as possible, you don't want it going somewhere else. Even though you say, oh, well, I'll just cancel it later. You're losing money on it, right? Cancel it now. It is a problem. There's a leak in your boat, right? And seek out opportunities. For example, a lot of the people that I speak with right now, they want deals. We're sitting on a bunch of deals. We have $5 million worth of financing right now with a couple of guys from our community. And they are like, dude, I need to buy. I need to put money to work. It's funny because I sit down with a lot of people. Every day I'm sitting down with between 2 to 3 of my kind of mentorship students. And every time I sit down with them, the people that have no money are like, how do I get started? The people that have money are like, I need to protect this right away. I need to put it into something. They know the value of protection, because when you protect, you retain. And when you retain, you can compound on it. People in the past, they didn't buy real estate because they're like, I'm going to buy it to get rich. They bought real estate because they couldn't trust the banks. These little banks in these bodunk small towns, they couldn't trust them. So what did they do? They kept it under the mattress, or they put it into their house, or they put it into their land. So you got to kind of think about that. That's the same strategy that still exists today. We're still combusting things on fire. I mean, we're still primitive. I got people messaging me all the time about this, saying, dude, you sparked the fire in me today on this session. If you got a little motivated today, if you got a little bit of clear-minded, if you got some interesting points to take from this session, drop a quick yes, or like, I did, or, give me some feedback. Like a Doris, for example, that sent me a message. I got a Jenny also that just sent me a message yesterday, and she was like, I'm super happy. I got a Jose that sent me a message yesterday too that was like, brother, I just got my first 2 money orders for my real estate property that I just bought. Jenny bought a property the other day using seller financing that she learned from the strategies that I was teaching her. And Doris bought herself a duplex, and she's making money. She's like, I have 3 kids. My husband works all the time. I need to make money. Like, I need more income. And look at her. What a sweetheart. She's sweating her butt off there, working on her property. Reese, being one of the other guys, bought himself a home with his wife. They bought themselves a single family home that they went and rented out to a couple that now pays for their mortgage every single month. These are deals that we've done. We've done so many of them. This month right now, like I said, we have $5 million worth of financing ready to go. Oh, Jose's in the session. What's up, Jose? Good to see you, brother. There you go. Look, Jose's here. Jose's in the session. He's the guy that sent the picture of his money orders, and he has his keys right next to it. And he's like, brother, I got myself a property. Congratulations, my man. Congratulations. I'm trying to share these wins. Right? Rand is an example of this. Another one, took out a home equity line of credit, added an extension, another unit to his property. Fiona is another example of this. Somebody that started off reading my book and was like, hey, I'm interested in real estate. I just want to read your book, Rich. I read the book. became an investor, owns 7 units, $1.4 million. She has that property right now. It's incredible. She's green. She doesn't even like have a lot of experience. And she was so nervous. She didn't have any idea of how to buy real estate in the first place. She was so worried. I'll share a little video about her.
So hey everyone, I'm Fionn Hu from San Francisco, California. I'm actually 20 years old, born and raised in San Francisco, and I'm currently employed at a staffing firm. So I help people find jobs in finance, accounting, and HR. And so knowing Richard, I'm not a big investor type of person. In fact, I just had a whole bunch of money sitting around in my bank account, not really knowing what to do with it. And it just so happens that I think I came across one of Richard's LinkedIn posts one time, and he referred me to go over Instagram, and I followed him from day one as soon as he had his mentorship program to mentee his students in terms of like career development, wanting to invest, real estate, etc. Right? And so I've been with him since April of this year with the mentorship program. And then when he started to see there's a big community being grown from his Instagram page, he then had an idea to transfer it over to this Cashflow Club community, right? And so I'm one of the first co-investors who actually got onto the deals that he proposed, and we have been working on this project since September of last year in trying to do the BRRRR strategy, right? And so I too was very skeptical prior to knowing Richard, right? Because my relationship started with him over phone calls, webinars, Instagram lives, and everything was just done virtually. I've never met the guy until he sent out a couple invitations for us to, meet him in person, because he did live in San Francisco for some time. So I did go and have lunch, dinner, a couple coffee meetings with him in person. And that's when I started to develop a relationship with him. And so some of that fear started to go away, right? Because as you know, there's a lot of programs and courses that are being sold online these days, and you just don't know what's real and what isn't. So for me, I had the opportunity to actually go and meet him in person to just kind of, take away some of that fear. And because of that chance I took in meeting Richard and moving forward on doing this project with him, it did kind of push me to where I'm at today, right? Being an actual investor.
Cool. So that's Fionn, and I'm sure that there are plenty of you that have that same mindset, right? Where you're working your 9 to 5, you got a little cash, you don't really know what to do. And look, me and Val, we were in the same position. And now, dude, we've traveled the world and we've enjoyed life. We've enjoyed it on our terms. It's been what a journey, man. What a journey it's been. And it's because we've taken the money that we make from real estate and we invest it into more real estate. And we keep doing that, and we keep recycling the effect. We put a little bit into these other things, like a little bit into Bitcoin, a little bit into gold, a little bit into these other kind of diversified things. But for the most part, we are focused on building more revenue for ourselves, more income. And when we did that, and as we continue to do that, it just makes our lives better, sweeter, nicer. We get to travel to more places. We get to afford a better lifestyle. Even if the dollar's diluting, if you're adding more income to your life, you're always beating the margin, right? This is us traveling in different countries with the kids, taking them everywhere with us. Well, they go with us everywhere. It's not like we're putting them and we're leaving them at home. It's a family of 5. The nanny's taking a picture. We have 6 people that are going around the world, and it's all because I'm not working. I'm not sitting there working a job, right? I'm actually bringing in money that comes in from real estate. That's actually very, in a completely different country. And again, it's important that you think about this in this way. If you don't come from a rich family, which me and Val didn't. Val was born in Colombia. Do you think she has money? She has no money, right? Me, I'm 3rd generation Cuban American. There's no money there. That's for sure. My grandparents came in a boat, to the United States. My grandfather made $3 an hour at a factory that makes gang nails that go on roofs. That guy, he worked there for 50 years. He died with a pension from that company, and he told me before he passed away that the smartest thing that you could do was work for the government for 20 years and then get a pension and retire. That's what he told me. I retired at 29 years old, and I stopped working. If I followed his lead, I would have still been 10 more years working. And I would have been retired at 40 with a little shitty pension. Why is this important? Because the world is changing. Everything is changing. The world is all of it is changing. And you got to change with it. And if you don't change, then you're going to stay behind. So look, going into your world, going into your life now, right? Going into your world, going into your life. I told you at the beginning that I wanted to have you take this information and implement it, right? This had to trigger you. It had to create a change in you. It had to acknowledge that there are opportunities out there for you to go after and that you need to now more than ever go after them. It's not a time to be complacent. It's not a time for you to be fatigued. It's not a time for you to be just scrolling aimlessly on Instagram or on YouTube or any of these things looking for a strategy. That's a thing of the past. You don't have time for that anymore. What I will say, and this is an important thing to say, is that I'm very old school. I'm old school. I got married at a young age. I've been with my wife for over a decade, right? Me and my children and my wife were a very close family. We protect and stay with each other all day, right? So that old school mindset makes it so that I want to give that same mindset to you guys in the same way. And so here's what I do. I love working with you guys on a one-on-one basis, right? I'm old school. I want to look you in the eyes and I want to be able to help you out. I don't want to just go and be like, hey, here's this, go read it, go watch it. You can do that right now all day. But I want you to be able to actually look at me in the eyes or me look at you in the eyes and say, or you and your spouse or you and your significant loved one. And I want to be able to say, hey, this is the steps that me and Val took to build this structure for ourselves. This is what we did. This is where we messed up. This is where we went well. This is what worked. This is what didn't. This is how much it cost. This is how much we saved that we didn't have to spend, that we would have spent if we didn't research and know about this beforehand. So things like qualifying a deal or how to find the right property and the location of a property, how to build a team around that property, right? How to have an offshore account or how to have money stored in an international trust, how to structure your LLCs, right? How to take advantage of tax-related benefits like cost segregations, right? Or before they take away the 1031 exchange. These are all things that we have used and we continue to use to our advantage to build wealth for our family, right? And so I want to be able to show you this. And so I'm going to open it up as a gift, and I want to give everybody the chance to jump on this as we did when we first started, the train of knowledge, the information, and have a mentor, have somebody to actually teach you guys step by step the process. And so what I want to do is I want to discount, because you guys are on here, you're very serious about your education. There's a reason why you're here. The reason why you're here is because you are motivated. You want to take action. You want to actually do more than what you're doing right now in your life. So this is why I say I want to open up a couple spots for this upcoming camp. It's 5 days. It's after hours. It's at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. It's perfect. Right after work, you sit down and you go for an hour and a half. And we do about an hour to an hour and a half of a private group session where we walk through each one of those things that I just mentioned in those 5 days. All of it is recorded. It's fully interactive. It also comes with a couple of other really cool and interesting things. Like, for example, After the 5 days, we have 5 Q&A sessions. So we actually go through and answer a bunch of Q&A on the session that took place. So not only did we learn, but we also take it a step further and we get to learn from each other in the session as well. I have all of my contracts and my guides and my scripts, everything that I have built that I've used for all of my investment properties, or even for investors that have invested with me. Like if you want to raise money for a joint venture, or if you want to use a guide to find out how to create your international trust, or to structure your LLCs for your portfolio. My calculators that are famous now for running the numbers on your deals, all of this stuff is available to you to get access to. My library of books, all of my books, every book that I have read that implemented change in my life when I first started investing, I went ahead and added a library for you to go in and get access to. My calculators, as I mentioned, and you have lifetime access to this. So even if today you're like, I'm not 100% ready right now, it's okay. This is something you take advantage of today, and then you can use it in a couple months. You can use it in 2 months, 3 months, 4 months. It's yours forever. You know, these are all going to be available to you, and real estate is forever. And these are just examples of people that I've helped over the last few months. These are people that have gone through the curriculum and they've learned and they've participated and they've set up a call with me to go through the knowledge and add more value, right? And really go into the depth of the strategies, right? And you can see Martin and Roger and Mark and Meridicia. These are people that are even international. They're overseas. I see a couple of you guys. Cool. I see Leia. I see that you got in. I have 20 spots. I have 20 spots available that I have opened up for this. The masterclass is very private. It's something that I only do with a couple of people. So I typically only open it up for a few people on these sessions. It's for people that are it's not for everyone, right? And I'm going to say this now. It is not for everyone, right? And so let me give you an example of someone that was like you guys that also was probably in the same capacity, a little skeptical, a little nervous, didn't really understand, kind of like I just want to work. I don't know if it's the right time to invest.
So first one will probably be a fear of losing money, because we're all going into real estate to gain money, right? No one wants to go to real estate and get their ass handed to them, right? So that's one fear that everyone has. And for me personally, how I overcame that fear, because that's a fear I definitely had as well, is Richard has a spreadsheet that is called his deal analyzer that he used to have when he analyzed all those deals. So I pretty much ran through, and inside that deal, there's numbers with like cash on cash return, like payback period, and there's all these variables like rent, rental income, insurance, taxes, mortgage. So all the variables and all the numbers are all in that spreadsheet and calculated. So to me, investing is a huge numbers game, especially in real estate as well as a huge numbers game. So you can definitely overcome a lot of fears about losing money by taking the time and doing the due diligence and using a software or using a spreadsheet to analyze all the numbers and all the details. So that's definitely one thing I did. I didn't leave any stone unturned. I analyzed everything, and also did it conservatively before I went to this deal to make sure that if things were to go wrong or things didn't go as expected, I at least had some breathing room. So that's just a couple things I did and also I can't forget one more thing is obviously knowledge. We don't want to go into any investments without fully knowing what we're getting into, right? So if we want to get invested into real estate, definitely got to get the knowledge first. Which is, you can definitely get a bunch of knowledge through this comedian, through Richard, from those videos I just talked about. So, so that's pretty much how I overcame the fear of potentially losing money, because after I ran all those numbers, after I watched all those videos and studied with Richard and studied myself on the side, I definitely feel very comfortable in what I'm putting my money into, and yep, that's it.
Stanley, I mean, he's a software engineer. He's a smart kid. Very smart guy. He bought himself his first property after going through with me. And again, like I told you, we very eye to eye. I'm old school. I want to walk you through the process. So it's important for me. It's important for me to get you through. And we have a team that's set up on the back end for all of this stuff. we're a pretty big team. Our team consists of wholesalers, so they help you find the deal. We have a team that does mortgage loan officer financing, so we have a financing department that helps you get the financing for your deal. So it's like there really isn't any excuse. You just got to go through it, right? So it's it's not your typical like, oh well, this is a course. It's not a course. It's actually a community, and the community is going to give you access to. The first thing is you're getting access to the courses and the curriculums, right? So you got your live in-person event where you're going to go sit and learn. It's 5 days. Plus, you have these additional courses that you want to go through as well. So we have a couple daily income courses to help you learn how to make some extra money. And then we have some zero money down courses to help you learn how to buy real estate without any money at all. Then we have 2, which we refer you over to a financing partner. And when we refer you over to this financing partner, because you're part of the community, they remove some of the fees associated with getting financed. And they can do financing in the United States. They can even do financing if you're out of the United States for purchases in the United States. Now, we want to make sure that if we're going to move you in to the next stage, which is helping you find a deal, and partnering you with one of our deal sourcers, right? We want to make sure that that you're qualified for financing, right? We don't want to just waste the deal sourcer's time because it's very difficult, of course, to find deals. So we want to make sure the person that we're going to bring over actually is financed and has the money to do it. So we will have a property appraisal fees removed. And that already alone is $1,000 that you're paying on property appraisals, in between $250 to $1,000 depending on the property, right? So between all of this, that team referral to get you over to a financing partner, like I told you, we have $5 million right now worth of financed investors. These are people just like you that were on these sessions, and they got, I met with Elias yesterday. I met him a month ago, right? A month and a half ago, roughly. And he's a young guy. He's a young guy. He works at a startup. And we got him up to $1 million worth of financing. And then yesterday he went and did an inspection on a property that he is going to put an offer on, $565,000 property. We went through the numbers on our second call, ran the numbers on the deal, and we said, listen, well, let's make an offer around 535, somewhere in that range on this property. These are people just like you. They're just like you. There's no difference, but they're just taking action and they're moving forward and they're using an entire team to help them get the result. And then, of course, for those of you guys that are signing up today, I would love to get a private group training. Okay, so this is a group training and it's invite only. For those of you guys that are VIP, so anybody who signs up to do a personal one-on-one mentorship with me, you have the option when you go sign up for the masterclass to either do the masterclass or to go in and sign up for a one-on-one mentorship. And if you sign up for the one-on-one mentorship, you're going to get allocated an account manager. Our account managers are phenomenal, and they reach out to you not only to get your schedule for the calls with me, but also to get you to the partners for the financing. And then even to potentially get you over to any of our other third-party partners as well. So CPAs, attorneys, and any of the likes, right? Asset protection, right? So these are all people that we would be able to connect you with. And your account manager is there for that purpose, to have a person that is going to help you, not just someone, just somebody that you're just going to go look at a couple videos and just, figure it out yourself, right? If you're still unsure, you can always message me on Instagram. I'm happy to answer any questions for you after the session. You can feel free to just send me a message and I'll field the questions, right? If you are not sure how to get in or how to sign up, it's just where you see down on your chat, you're going to see where it says take advantage now. And when you click on that, it's going to take you over to a reserve now option where you can go and reserve your spot. And all you got to do is just click on the reserve now, and you're able to sign up for the masterclass. if you want, I noticed that some people are asking about the mentorship. So if you want to become a VIP, then you can send me a message directly, and I can upgrade you to VIP right after you sign up for the masterclass. Okay, so right after you sign up for the masterclass. So once you sign up for the masterclass, I will go ahead and set you up. You can just send me a message for VIP. It is an upgrade, so that you will need to get into the let me just make sure. I want to make sure that I can give you that chance here. Yeah, here we go. Let me see. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, let me go ahead and open up 10 spots for that. But I don't think that we have a VIP option on here. So I will have to check and see. If you want to be a VIP, you will have to message me directly for VIP. So you can send me a message after this for the VIP access. So I can help you out with that. Because I do see that there's some questions around the mentorship. Now, just to be clear, signing up for the masterclass is not a one-on-one session with me, right? You actually have to sign up for a VIP to be on those one-on-ones. So if you're signing up for masterclass, it's different than signing up for VIP, right? It's different than signing up for VIP, right? Cool. Let's go into Q&A. And if you guys have questions for today, would love to answer some of them for you. So feel free to drop some questions inside of the chat function on the right. Check my inbox. Okay. All right, Zach, I will. I'll check the inbox. A couple people asking for VIP. No questions? Nobody has any questions they want to ask? Let me see if there's anything here on the Q&A. I must have done a great job. Normally, when I don't get any questions, it's because we crushed it. We went through a lot of information. What type of property would be great to buy first to make good cash flow? Nick asks. The type of property that you want to buy is a multifamily property in a gentrifying area, and you want to be able to buy it using financing so that you don't have all of your money stuck in the deal. Your goal is, because of its gentrification, you want to be able to get out of the deal, which when I say get out of the deal, it doesn't mean like sell the property, but it means to get out of the financing, get out of the risk of you having money in that deal, get out of it, after, let's say, 6 to 12 months. You want to be risk-free. That's basically what I'm trying to say. So yeah, that's the strategy that you want. You want to get a good multifamily duplex or triplex, and you want to buy something in that range where you can buy it using financing, 3% down, 5% down, 10% down, and then you want to be able to cash out refinance after a good 12-month period. You're going to raise the rents on the property as well. So that's what's going to help you get out of the risk. The risk means you're getting all your money back. Do you help with Airbnb arbitrage? We have a property management company called MPM, and we help with Airbnb setup and Airbnb management. So if you wanted to get help with Airbnb, you would have to have those units already. So you would need to be the one that has the units, but we could help in the management of the units, right? So guest relations, maintenance, turnover, those are things that we can do. That's a separate service, right? That's a separate service altogether. We have a lot of units under that business. How long do the sessions run for? So we do 5 days at the end of the month. It's for 5 days, and we will have about a 1.5 hour time each night. So each night. Do you see more foreclosures hitting the market? Are those a good time to buy? Foreclosures are when, foreclosures are typically when you can't afford your mortgage. The thing that we're actually seeing more of right now is that people don't want to sell their properties because they don't want to get rid of the interest rate and the payments that they have on their mortgages. So we're actually seeing more hoarding of real estate. There's cycles where things get hoarded, and we're seeing a lot of hoarding right now of real estate, which is why you're seeing a tight inventory in the market. So things actually, they get sold really fast. I don't foresee foreclosures being too much of a big thing in the residential space, but maybe on the commercial side, you'll see a little bit more of it. But commercial doesn't have anything to do with residential. So commercial can have an implosion, but doesn't necessarily mean that you have a problem with overall real estate. It's different cycles for everything, and it's also different asset classes for each. So, some guys are saying that commercial real estate is going to have some problems. Some are not. I guess we'll see. But commercial real estate is not the same as a residential property. It's completely different. You're talking about like office spaces primarily for commercial real estate that could have a problem. How do I buy U.S. real estate as a non-resident? You would do it still through your own name, and you could still get financing. You would just need to put a little bit more of a larger down payment when you go buy the property. So typically between 25 and 50% down. The bank basically says, listen, we'll allow you to buy from out of the country. We'll allow you to buy into the country, which actually, if you were to buy in the United States, but you're out, you're a foreigner, it goes towards your investor visa. So you do kind of have a benefit there. You're able to get a nice, you're able to get some nice benefits. I'm planning on buying my second property. When do you think the right time to buy during this recession? It's been the right time to buy. Everything's stalled out and slow. So I would say now would be a good time. Find yourself a deal. There's always a deal. That's it's the thing that everybody is a little bit confused about is like, well, is there any deals? Well, there's always a deal, because deals are when people lose a house or lose a job or lose a spouse, or, somebody passes away, or, I hate to say it in that way, but it's the truth. Deals are kind of all the time, they're always out there. Somebody gets a divorce. That's a deal, so that's going to be what you're looking for. You're looking for properties that are going through some problems, right? And those are the ones that you're going to take advantage of. Would you recommend opening an LLC when it comes to applying for a loan? No, because you can get a loan with an LLC, but it's very difficult to do in this market. The best thing to do would be to use your personal name, and then, and then maybe from there, and then maybe from there you can go and have, an LLC opened up. You shouldn't really open up an LLC and use an LLC for real estate until after you do the cash out refinance or the refinance, because then that way the property is matured enough for you to move it in there. Is LLC best for making Airbnb? Yeah, Yeah, I would use, it's a business. Airbnb is a business. So it's like running a hotel. So you should be using an LLC. I think I saw something on your IG where you take your rental income and roll it into a trust. Is there a certain point that you'd recommend doing that as I build my portfolio straight out of the gate, or should I wait to have more properties and cash flow? So a trust is a really special financial instrument because you can roll things into the trust as you keep on acquiring things. So it's a nice way to continue adding more protection to the assets that you have. You have to understand why you want to trust in the first place. You know, if you want to trust to protect things, then you have to structure the trust in the right way in order for the trust to actually work. Because if you structure it in the wrong way, I want you to remember that your property, you might not be a public figure, right? You might not be famous. You might not be, in the spotlight, but your assets are themselves public figures because they have customers that go and live in them. So if your customer slips and falls in one of your public figure houses because it has a public address and it's publicly known, then you could be liable for that. And they can look at your asset and say, hey, I want to go and sue you for this property or for some form of value against this property. And if you didn't structure your trust and the protection around your LLC in the correct way, then you could have in the United States, as crazy as this sounds, you can have the trust pierced. So they can pierce the trust. The U.S. judges can pierce the trust and can take assets out of it, and foreclose on assets and foreclose on percentage of ownership on those assets and stuff. So, when it comes to a trust, I'm a big believer of international trust because in order for a judge in the United States to go after assets that are located outside of the United States, it's extremely difficult to do. And in fact, if an attorney were to go and look up your assets and try to work with somebody that slipped and fell in one of your properties, they would see this trust located in this other country. They would probably be like, listen, it's not worth it. You're going to have to spend a lot of money to go after this guy, or this person. And it doesn't make sense. There's easier targets, So an international trust is a safe haven for people that want to have the added protection, right? But you can open up a trust at any time and start rolling in the assets as you build your portfolio. That's not a problem. I will say that you should only be putting assets into the trust that you want to protect and that you want to keep there long term, right? If you're not going to keep them long term, then you shouldn't put them in there. If you roll them into an LLC is great, but if the LLC is just a single member LLC and it's just your name on the LLC and it just owns just one property or whatever, and somebody wants to sue you and sue that business that owns that property, they're going to be able to breach that LLC as well. So the judge, the U.S. judge, is going to look at that LLC and be like, well, it's technically your personal name that owns this property, even though it's in an LLC, it's still your personal name that owns it. So they're going to be able to breach that LLC also. And let's just say that you use that LLC for some type of personal reasons of any kind, and the judge or the attorney that's going after you sees that you sent a little bit of money to make a payment on a personal loan or whatever the case may be, and you didn't transfer it correctly, they could also say that you use that LLC for personal use, and then they can easily pierce the veil of the LLC. So there's a lot of things. We talk about this in day 5, and it's incredible. The court system in the United States is incredibly corrupt. It's not fair whatsoever. So you have to be smart in your protection, your asset protection. If you're not smart in your asset protection, then you are going to you're going to lose money. You're going to lose. There's no questions about it. The average person that owns real estate, a person that owns real estate has money. And so the average person that owns real estate gets sued 7 times in their lives. 7 times. 7. So imagine somebody that's rich gets sued way more. You know, you get seven times in a year. You know, so 7 times in their lives isn't that much. So just to give you so the way you need to structure it is really smart. You need to structure it through offshore entities, and you need to structure it through anonymous entities and international based trustees, where you have incredible amounts of protection. And if somebody wants to go sue you, they're going to go sue a business that's international, and the law in that country is going to say, fine, you want to sue us? Well, first, you're coming after us for a situation that happened 2 years ago. That's already in our court system expired. So you're not able to sue for that particular situation. Oh, you want to sue for something that happened in 2019? Sorry, that's not possible. In the United States, you can sue for as long, 5 years. It's like, it doesn't matter. But in a different country, it expires, especially these havens. The other thing is that it's also, for example, if they want to sue you for, like, let's say it's a tenant and they want to sue your trust that's international, that lawsuit will require them to put a bond down to sue. In the United States, you don't need to put a bond. You can just go right after the entity, hire an attorney on contingency. The guy doesn't even make a penny from representing you until he realizes, like, oh, this guy owns 3 properties, 2 properties, he makes $100,000 a year in his job. Let's hit him for $50,000. Let's hit him for $75,000. He'll settle, right? He'll settle. And so before you know it, it's like, okay, fine. You didn't give the guy $50,000, but he got you for $25,000 all of a sudden. And the contingency attorney, that's all they were looking for. They split the difference. They said, all right, well, you get $12,000, I get $12,000, and we'll just call it what it is. And that's it. We were able to get this guy for $25,000 in 60 days, in 90 days. We got him to settle out, right? Whereas if you go sue an international offshore entity, you would need to put a bond of $100,000 down just to sue the entity. Nobody's going to do that. So how are you going to touch my stuff in a different country if you have to put $100,000 down just to bring the claim against the entity? You're not going to be able to. Do you have $100,000? You slipped and fell on that property, but that property is owned by an entity that's offshore. And if you want to go after the entity and all the assets that are in it, you're going to have to put down $100,000 to go after it. Sorry. That type of stuff we go, again, like I told you, we go into day 5. It's mind-blowing stuff. That's why it's the last thing that we go into. It's mind-blowing stuff. It really is. Asset protection. Again, something like stripping the equity from your assets. Like, if you own a property right now and it's free and clear, that's ridiculous. Every property should always have debt, even if the debt isn't necessarily a true debt and it's an IOU debt. Stripping equity from your assets is essential, because if somebody sues you right now and they say, well, I see you have a free and clear property and it's worth $500,000. If you have that $500,000 sitting there exposed because they know it's your property and it's free and clear, or you have $300,000 or $200,000 in equity in that property, they can sue you, right? And when they sue you, okay, when they sue you, they're going to get paid first on, if they win, they're going to get paid first on whatever the money is that's in that asset. So rich people, what they do is they strip the equity from the property before any of that ever happens. So if one of you guys said, fuck Rich, I'm going to sue him. Let's just say one of you guys were upset. I'm going to sue him. You can come after me. That's fine. But even if you go to a judge, or your attorney is going to look up all my properties, if they can find them, right? And if they can find all my properties in these anonymous LLCs somehow, and they find all my properties, right? If they're able to find all my properties somehow in these anonymous LLCs that are out of anonymous states that have no state tax, if somehow they can find them, then once they do find them, they go look up the value of the property and they look up how much debt the property has, which is public record, they're going to see that all of my properties have no equity because I have stripped all of the equity from those assets. All of it. In fact, I even stripped the equity from all of my businesses. So if somebody goes and sues my business and says, well, hey, I'm going to sue your business for $1 million. That's fine. You're going to have to get in line, buddy, because I have another business that I stripped the equity from my own business off of. And if I were to get sued on this business and the judge says, hey, you owe this guy money, all right, but I have to pay my first creditor, and the first creditor is the trust in another country that I own. So if my business gets sued for $1 million, all that money that I'm supposed to cash out is going to go to my trust first. And then whoever's coming after me is going to get the second. It's like, oh, well, you know, so a judge would probably be like, it doesn't make sense. An attorney would be like, it doesn't make sense. This is going to be too expensive to go after this person. You're not going to get anything at the end. What are we going to go after this person for? They don't even have anything. They don't have anything in their name in the United States that, you know, and if we do go after this stuff out of the United States, we have to put $100,000 bond just to get a court date. And then on top of that, all the properties that he owns and all the assets that he has and all the businesses that he has in his own personal name, he has a bunch of debt with these foreign companies that for some reason, you know, like if we go and sue him, he's going to have to pay all of this out to them first. And then whatever's left over, he pays us, which he might not have anything left over because all of it is already allocated in value to these offshore entities. Now, just to be clear, this is not tax savviness. This is not this is not a strategy to reduce your taxes, by the way. Like this is, you still have to self-report everything, and you still have to, and so I pay more taxes, and I have to pay a yearly maintenance cost for these international things, right? But it's for protection. It's not for tax benefits. There's no tax benefits when it comes to these things. The only tax benefit you're getting with opening up these international entities is that in that country that you opened it up in, that country doesn't have taxes. That's the only thing that you're not paying. So you open up a business in Dubai, that country doesn't have taxes, but the United States still has taxes. If I open up a business in Dubai, my business in Dubai still has it has no taxes from Dubai, but it has taxes from the United States. I have to pay taxes to the United States because I'm a United States citizen, regardless of where I do business. Right? If I open up in the Cayman Islands, if I open up in the Bahamas, if I open up in the Cook Islands, if I open up wherever, it doesn't matter where I open up. If I open up a trust or any of these entities in any of these countries, anywhere, I have to self-report them, and that means that they need to pay taxes. They need to pay taxes, right? Bank accounts in Singapore, bank accounts in Switzerland, all these things, you've got to pay taxes on. There's no question about it. And I would rather pay taxes because then it's legal, right? It's legal. The money's legal. I could always transfer it back. I could sell the assets. I won't have auditing issues. I won't have consequences there. These are all things we go through in day 5, right? In day 5. And if you don't know this stuff, I just want to be clear with you. Day 5, I spent $50,000 and then $7,000 a year just to be told these things, basically. So if you're sitting there like, what's the value of this information? Just day 5 alone is a $50,000 cost to me for an asset protection. I have a firm that manages my asset protection stuff, and they structure everything for me. And all of that is, that cost me a lot of money. It cost me a lot of money. Asset protection is not cheap because think about it. Opening up an international trust, just to open up an international trust costs $20,000 minimum. To open up an account in Switzerland is a minimum deposit of $500,000. To open up an account in Singapore, it's a minimum deposit of $1 million. So, you know, it's not cheap to get into those things and to learn those things, and only rich people know about it. And the last thing that rich people want to do is tell you this shit because they don't want you to go and know the ways that you can go after them, right? They don't want that. So hey, hopefully you guys will join the masterclass where we cover all of these things. There's a lot of things to cover, and I can guarantee you will leave there astounded and blown away. And I hope that I see all of you guys that signed up soon. There's still 5 spots available. I just left it on here for you guys, and I will see you guys on the masterclass. Good evening, everybody, and later.